In the follow-up to President Xi's visit to President Putin in Moscow, is there any sign of Russia's spring offensive? I'm not sure, unless the impasse in Bakhmut is as much as it's going to deliver. President Zelensky yesterday visited Bakhmut. It's an astounding thing for a sitting president to do, to visit a live war zone. There are terrible losses on both sides, but the Ukrainian assessment is that for every 7.5 casualties on the Russian side, there is one Ukrainian casualty. That ratio has been pretty well confirmed by British observers. Putin planned to capture Bakhmut by the middle of December, and he has failed. There's no clear strategic reason for clinging on to Bakhmut. It has modest strategic value, but Putin wants it. That's his objective, and therefore, I think the Ukrainian soldiers are determined not to surrender it. And the visit of President Zelensky came as new cities across Ukraine were attacked with sporadic drone strikes in places that are otherwise peaceful and of no strategic significance. There's a sort of trope here, isn't there? There are two reasons for this. Number one, the military stupidity and misdirection of the Russian forces. Number two, the plan to blast civilians into surrender. Actually, the more Putin throws missiles at the civilian population, the more it stiffens their resolve. So is there any sign of the spring offensive, or is this all that has emerged? I don't know. We have to wait and see. At the moment, there's a lot of pouting and anger from the Kremlin, particularly in the person of Mr. Medvedev. I'm told that I shouldn't make a homophobic slur by suggesting that Mr. Medvedev's handshake is limp. It was limp. It was also moist. I don't think I'm making a homophobic slur. I think Mr. Medvedev's limp handshake and camp demeanour are positives. And I'm shocked and surprised by the pugilistic nastiness that has emerged. I didn't see that in his character at all. But my encounter with Mr. Medvedev was many, many years ago. And, people change. People change. And clearly in the case of Mr. Medvedev, people decline. President Xi, what was the purpose of his visit? Well, I suppose he couldn't call it off once it had been announced, and it was announced, I think, a day or so before the ICC announced that they were putting out an arrest warrant for Mr. Putin. So was President Xi simply going through the motions? I don't know. He doesn't seem to have offered anything. His peace plan is rhetoric, not substantial, and he didn't offer any serious military assistance. So the sort of modest sleight of hand military assistance and financial help which China is already offering to Russia, I suppose, will continue. And this was a confirmation of that relationship. But I don't imagine it's going to get any bigger. I don't imagine China is going to toughen up and buddy up any further with Russia. This is going through the motions, and it's probably about as much as Russia, as much as Mr. Putin is going to get. I hope that's the case, but I don't see any evidence in any other direction. And I think the American saber rattling that China is about to give Russia a big military arms shipment is nonsensical. And if America knew what it was doing, it would start to forge links with China rather than saber rattle. We need links with China. We need links with India. We need to position ourselves more positively in the global community if we are going to stand up to the tyranny that is coming from the Kremlin. And the Kremlin simply needs to be persuaded to back down. And we're not necessarily the people who are going to do that persuasion. That persuasion is better coming from a perceived friend, from China, from India, from one of the stans. And maybe there is an exit strategy that can be negotiated for Mr. Putin.